Hello and welcome to the CS2+C show. It's always a pleasure having you along. Thanks so much to everyone that has liked and subscribed. And a shout out to our partners at Betway. Check out betway.co.za for lots of competitions, all sorts of odds, and you can check out what's happening in the world of sport with Betway scores. Now, it is an absolute pleasure and honor for me to welcome our next guest on the show. Steve, my sound engineer, my executive producer, has been so excited. He hasn't stopped talking about this, Ryk, since you agreed to come onto the show. But Ryk Neethling, thank you so much for coming on. And I mean, we've been loving your work on Supersport with the analysis and the swimming, and I'm sure you've been having a pretty good time.
Yeah, it's been great, especially to be in the studio with like somebody like Penny and Marianne. They were at the '96 Olympics. I was 18 years old, and they were a little bit older than me, and I saw them win Olympic medals there, and that's kind of when it was my dream to go to the Olympics, but I never really dreamt to win a medal, and then I saw them win there, and I thought, okay, maybe I can do this as well. So I was like the little brother, on the team back then, and so to be able to share our knowledge and to educate the viewers a little bit on the intricacies and the ups and downs, and we shared some great moments. The gold medal from Tatiana, but also a little bit of a disappointment. But I think it puts things into perspective how special a gold medal is.
Yeah.
Everything has to happen just right, and so we need to celebrate those. And but it's been great to be part of the Supersport team.
I've got to ask you. I mean, sitting in the studio there, watching, I assume you're jumping out of your chair, you guys are shouting, screaming, and when you see a South African doing so well, I mean, it's part of your legacy in a way, if that makes any sense, because you guys have paved the way. The Penny Haineses, as you say, you guys have paved the way for the generation that's out representing you guys, essentially.
Yes, it's very nice to see, and I think if you have that kind of mentality of, paving the way, and you really, share in the success, and you're really happy for somebody. I think, some athletes feel that if there's another athlete or swimmer that come after them and they maybe win more golds than them, then it's going to detract from them. And I don't, see that at all. And I don't think Penny looks at it like that. It's all good for the sport. Our main aim is to grow the sport. It's a sport that gave so much to us, and we just want to see it thrive in difficult circumstances here in South Africa. I think in the modern day world, there's so many other sports to play that are easier. I mean, let's not kid ourselves. Swimming is tough. These winters in Joburg up here this morning, it was freezing, and I just thought, as I walked out of my hotel room, I thought, I can't imagine that I swam in this weather. So it's tough. But that carrot, we have to polish that carrot.
Absolutely.
and make it really attractive. And so it's nice to be able to give something back. And to see the youngsters come through, and to see the kind of person that Tatiana is, the kind of champion that she is. I think it's not going to be long before we're going to just remember that beaming smile and what an incredible ambassador she was.
Yeah.
As soon as she touched the wall, she goes over to her rival's lane and she hugs her, and I mean. Just an incredible example.
I think in terms of ambassadors, like, she's one of the best we've ever had. And, I look at her hanging up her goggles. Is that even a term when you retire? Is it your goggles or cap?
Yeah, goggles and cap, maybe.
And she leaves the sport on such a high note and in such a, inspirational way. Is it tough, though? I mean, and I'm going to ask you this. When you make up your mind and the next day you don't have to pitch up at the pool at 5:30 and it's dark and freezing outside. Do you make peace with that sort of straight away, or is it something that you think about for quite a while and it's part of that 4-year cycle? Because you've had quite a few Olympics that you've attended over the years.
I think as an athlete, in hindsight and having watched a lot of athletes come to terms with those, first of all, with a decision to retire, I think ideally you want to retire on top when you're still on the either on the way up or at the top. You don't want to wait too long, and it's a very difficult thing when you start getting slower. You're training harder and you're getting slower. And a lot of people think it's a lack of motivation. It's not that. In fact, it's probably the opposite, that you're probably overtraining, you're getting older, you're getting more injuries, you're getting sick, and then it's just one thing after the other. And mentally, that's a very difficult thing for an athlete. So to come to terms with the fact that you're going to have to stop someday, and then it is very difficult for the first year or so, because the reality is, as much as you say, swimming is just something that I do, you do it a lot, and it's such a big part of your life, and your identity is a little bit, swimming is your identity, and when that is not there, it is a little bit tough. I think it's important to find a passion or find something that you're really passionate about. For me, it was property. I couldn't wait to get into property, and so for me, when I retired, I knew it was it was done. It was probably 6 months, too late. I went to the Olympics. I had an injury for about 6-7 months, so I wasn't 100%. But went to Beijing. I didn't have a great Olympics, but I knew it was it was the end. I was 30 years old. And then I jumped into property and just threw all my energy in there. And there were tough times, but it takes about 2 or 3 years before you become an expert in something else. And then you look back, fondly. But if you don't find that passion, then it can be a very long and tough road.
When you finished that final race, was it a sense of relief, or was it a strange feeling? Maybe can you just sort of share that with us?
I'll be very honest. My last race at the Olympics was my worst.
Okay.
And for people that they watched it, maybe they thought, oh, he had a bit of a bad swim. But for me at that stage, it was devastating.
Okay.
Because I always prided myself in, at the Olympics, I always swim my best times. I really felt like I thrived under pressure. In the final, I would swim fast in semifinals and finals, and so to do that for me at the time was devastating. It took me a very long time to get over it, so it was a mixed, it was like mixed emotions. I knew that it was the end, but it was tough. So I wouldn't say it was relieved. I was just disappointed that I couldn't finish really on top. Similar to Athens. But over time, you look back at your whole career. The first man or the first person to go to 4 Olympic Games for South Africa, 3 world titles.
I mean, I would bow down and say we're not worthy, But
so you look back and I think I had my best spell when I was actually in America. So my NCAA performances were probably my best. And then you look at it as a whole, and then you start to say, okay, it was actually a good career, and you can keep your head up high.
Boy from Bloemfontein.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's, for me, is what's such an incredible story, is just how, literally you think Bloemfontein, you don't, I mean, obviously now, but back in the day, you think rugby, cricket. You don't really think swimming, right?
Athletics,
all
about.
There's, but swimming's probably lower down on the list if you go. Bloemfontein is renowned for, but yet you've come from Bloem and you've really had an incredible career, man. You can be very, very proud of what you've achieved, and I think as a role model, not just in swimming, but as a human being and how you've carried yourself, it's really is inspiring to a lot of men out there and women, kids who want to follow their dreams.
No, thanks. Yes, I must say, looking back, I was so fortunate to have just incredible people in my life, and I realize it's not like that with everybody. But from literally before I was even born, my parents, just after they got married, when my mom was pregnant with me, their neighbor was Karen Meer.
Okay.
So as soon as I can remember, I heard these stories about Karen Meer, like rubbing my mom's, tummy. But it might, sound small, but I was always told that, greatness is within reach and that you can do it. Then I went to Grey College, and there almost every Friday there's some old boy that comes back, be it a Springbok player, a Proteas player, or just a successful businessman, or a top winemaker would come back and he would maybe present something to the school and tell his story. And I heard it 100 times. And they would always say, I also sat there on the ground. I also got not bullied, but I got, I was a runt, and I had the audacity to dream big, and I worked hard, and here I am now. And then you start to think, and then from a swimming sense, I had incredible coaches. Simon Gray took me to to my first Olympics. He competed in the 1980 Olympics, for Great Britain. So I had him. My first coach was Santa van Jaarsveld. That was she was a legend coach. She moved down to Stellenbosch. Our family is to this day, we're family friends with the Cronje family. So Hansie, my sister was very ill, and she would go for brain operations up here in Johannesburg, and I would go to the Cronje house to go study. But I would just lay in his room, and this is Hansie's room, and
crazy,
look at the memorabilia, and the cricket players would come through: Alan Donald, Alan Lamb, Omar Henry, Franklin Stevenson. All these guys would come, and they would, and I was just kind of the little kid that would be running around there, and then I would watch them on TV and go, these guys are just normal like me, and they would always ask me about swimming. And so I was always just around people that encouraged me, always. And so I was very fortunate. And, without that, I definitely wouldn't be where I am today. And that's why whenever the opportunity is there, I try to give back and do the same.
Heading to the US college, was that sort of a tough decision to make at the time, or was it something you were like,
it was my dream, yeah. So we had a few girls on the swim team there in Bloemfontein. They went to the University of Nebraska, and there was one that went to SMU.
Okay.
And they would come back once or twice a year, and they would tell us these stories about America, and I thought, just like this.
That faraway place.
Place. And I remember the one thing was like, they've got 200 channels, that was when we just had 3, I think, SBC 1, 2, and 3. And so, I was a young boy and easily impressed. But so my dream, from a young age, from about 12, 13, I wanted to go to a university at, in the US. So that was my... And so when I was about 16, 17, I started to be recruited. We sent a few, that's before the internet.
Yeah.
So you would get these media guides with pictures and stuff, and I had a whole stack, and we had a few coaches come out from America to Bloemfontein.
And you had a few options, I imagine.
I had a few options. I actually committed to the University of Southern California first because Simon Gray's coach, when he was at college, was coaching there.
Okay.
And then my dad and I decided, listen, from Bloem to Los Angeles is a bit of a step, and we decided to rather go to a place where the university is kind of the core and in the center of town, and the main thing. There's no other pro teams. A little bit more of a university town, and I decided to go to the University of Arizona, so Tucson, in the middle of the desert, about 40 minutes from the Mexican border. And it was the best decision that I've ever made. Just, again, our coaches they cared about us so much before us being athletes.
Yeah.
That was the main priority, is make sure that they thrive as a human being, and as a student athlete, and then the performances will follow. So had a great career. They lived in America for 12 years. That's why I picked up this mix of an accent. But
it's not quite Bloem sounding.
No, but you know, the thing is when you go from Bloem, and my very limited English from Bloem, because we are very Afrikaans. When you go there, first of all, you struggle, and then then you settle into the daily life. And every time you open your mouth, people ask you where you're from. And while it's nice to be different, but sometimes you just want to get on with it.
Yeah.
You may be in a work group in class, and you don't want to explain the same thing over and over. And do you have lions walking in the street, and all these questions. So then you kind of blend in. I also stutter, and I think the accent also helped a little bit with the stutter. So that's how I ended up like this.
Are you a Cardinals fan as a result?
No, I'm not. I'm not a huge NFL. Some more college, sports, the basketball. So I arrived there in August '96, and the University of Arizona basketball team, the Wildcats, we won the NCAA, the Final Four,
wow.
March Madness, they call it, of March '97, and I mean it was pandemonium. And it was interesting because I had just won one NCAA title about a week before they won. Okay. So I was like, okay, this college sports is huge. I mean, there were riots in the streets in Tucson, like tens of thousands of people, tipping over cars and just going absolutely berserk. So, so more in the college, sports.
Okay.
Scene,
I'm always quite curious to know because, with that college system, college sports is so massive. And I mean, we've seen NCAA stuff where it's, let's say Michigan or whoever it is playing not NFL, but American football against each other. And it's like 80,000, 120,000. Arizona is like bonkers.
And it's sold out for years.
Yeah.
It's not like, okay, let's everybody come.
Yeah, we can just rock up.
You can't get tickets.
Yeah.
There's a waiting list in a stadium for 100,000 people to get a ticket.
That is mad.
Our basketball arena, I think, was 18,000 people, and we were sold out, I think, something like 16 years, every single game.
That's crazy, yeah.
That's
why there's tailgating.
Yeah, yeah. So it's just on another level, and just opens your eyes to a whole new world, and how people do it. And
fair to say that it shaped you into who you are today, considering, like you were telling me just before we started recording, swimming in the various cities of the U.S., you got to see the U.S. I mean, that must have been something special to be able to, on someone else's dime, I think that's the best part, to get education and to become this incredible swimmer.
Yeah, no, it was a unbelievable opportunity. I arrived there as a very green 18-year-old. I went straight from Atlanta from the Olympics, and I went there with, I think I had 2 suitcases.
That's
when
wild,
I arrived there. And I said, okay, this is it. This is the next chapter. And so how it works is you've got, in the season you've got dual meets. So you'll fly to San Francisco, you swim against Stanford and Cal there. Then you travel to Los Angeles, you swim against USC, UCLA. You go to Texas, to Austin. We used to have a lot of meets there. There's meets in Indianapolis, in Minnesota. So you also Las Vegas. So you get to travel a lot, all within a team context. And I think that is the other thing that makes the swimming easier in a sense, is that it's very team orientated. Yeah. Men's teams are 25 swimmers. The women's teams 25 to 30. So you're swimming with 50 of your friends, and it just makes it easier to wake up early in the morning, jump in a cold pool, swim for 2 hours, then go to class, and then come back in the afternoon and do it again. Because it's when you're doing it as a team, and that's why the relay, when we won, was so special, because we just applied those same concepts for the team in Arizona. We applied it to the 4 of us. And achieve something very special together.
Take us there to that special moment. leading up to that race, what was going through your mind? I mean, it's the Olympic Games, you're no stranger, but there's an opportunity for a gold medal here.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe just take us there.
You have to go back 12 months before that, at the World Championships in Barcelona. The same 4 guys from in the relay as well, and we got lost. We actually got 9th in the morning, so we missed the final, but Sweden got disqualified. We snuck in on the side. Final, we came and we were 4.5 seconds behind the winners. So 4.5 seconds is, I think, 12 meters. And
that's a considerable distance.
If you watch it now, we're not even in the frame. So when
Wow, okay.
I always say I could have stopped and climbed out the pool and nobody would have noticed. You know, we were so far out, and so then on pool deck we just said, okay, just remember this feeling. Let's bank it, and we're never going to feel like this again.
Yeah.
And it was from that moment we stopped making excuses, we stopped being victims, and we invested in each other. Where we were 4 individuals that swam that, and we just said, okay, individually the chances of us winning gold or any medal is slim. But if we work together, and if I encourage Lyndon and Roland, I know I'm going to have to race them individually, but as a team we can do something bigger than and we started doing that. You know, we just started investing in each other. We didn't make any excuses. We used being South African to our advantage. We accepted we're not going to get any support. We're not going to get any sponsors, but that's just going to make us even tougher.
Yeah.
And then we, about a month before the Olympics, it was the American trials, and we were left in Tucson. There was just the 4 of us, I think. And we really started to bond then, and our times began to we really started to swim fast. And the other thing is we never spoke about that we're going to win a medal. We just said if each guy does what they're capable of doing, then we should get close to the world record, and that whoever's going to beat us will have to break the world record.
Yeah.
And you can only do what you can control.
Yeah.
So we had a very good, and that just came from failing so many times that we had learned these lessons the hard way, you know. So that stage, we were like, it was my 3rd Olympics, it was Roland's 2nd, and we were just tired of losing and making mistakes. So we're like, okay, this is how we're going to do it, and we're going to stick to this. And the big test came after the prelims in the morning, where we almost broke the world record, to everybody's surprise, and we were the most surprised, because we just said, when we walked out, I said, all we're going to do is make finals.
Yeah.
We're not jumping ahead. We're not thinking ahead. Almost broke the world record. And the media, I'll never forget, we walked out and there's a whole line of media, and they all, Ryk, almost broke the world. And I told the guys, we're not speaking to anybody. We just walked past. So all we've done is make the finals. And we could have very easily have fallen into the hype train back to our old ways of talking about gold and how cool it would be and this, and we just said no. And I think that was a big test for us, is to stay to our plan, or to stick to our plan. And that night everything just worked in our favor. The Americans chose their order. If we could have chosen their order, that's the order we would have chosen.
All right. I see.
It suited us perfectly. And when the order came out, we just kind of looked at it and said, the table is set for us. Now we must just go and take it. And we did, and we all swam, perfectly. And it was just one of those moments where everything just came together at the right time.
And I mean, in the water, is it a feeling thing? I mean, I keep saying this, and Steve gets cross with me when I say us mere mortals who will never swim in an Olympic Games. Is it a feeling thing? Is it something? Are you taking the moment in? Do you even hear the crowd? Is it?
Yeah.
This just feels like I've clicked. I'm optimal.
When you, I was thinking about it this morning. There's some guys in those races, and I particularly enjoy the 50, 100, and 200. But there are some great athletes that don't make the final, and it's just because they're missing their taper. It's not that they're bad or worse. They're just not peaking at the right time. It's that competitive. But when you peak at the right time, you feel like a god.
Okay.
You feel I mean, that Chinese swimmer that broke the world record, I can only imagine what that guy feels like.
And I mean, it was by a second, right?
Yeah.
It was a body length.
Yeah. And but just so powerful. And when it clicks, when you hit your taper, you almost don't get tired. You just sitting high in the water. You're in control. You can small adjustments speed wise. You're just in control, and that is just an amazing feeling.
I can imagine.
So it all came. I was a little bit off at that Olympics. I mean, if I have to be honest now, I wasn't right at my best.
Yeah.
I was like, I think I was probably a little bit overtrained, but still good enough to look back with very fond memories. That's the one thing I miss. You know,
Yeah.
I don't really miss the training.
Yeah.
But to be in that kind of shape where, you know, you're standing behind the blocks and it's the most alive you'll ever be. You know, every fiber in your body is firing.
Yeah.
All your senses are heightened. You hear, but you don't hear. It's kind of drowning, but it's feeding your senses.
Yeah.
And when you're on that block, it's an incredible feeling. It'd be cool to if they can take some samples of your blood at that moment, you know, because I think just the hormones and everything, the endorphins and everything is just, you know, pumping through your veins.
This is going to sound like a silly question, right? But when you hit the water, do you actually feel the water, if you know what I'm trying to say, because you're so focused on the task at hand and that's, I have to swim the best race of my life right now. Do you actually feel, you know, it's a fleeting moment? I'm just curious more than anything.
Yeah, you look, you do it you do it 1,000 times, but there is kind of that, you don't feel the water because, you know, the water is your home.
Yeah.
So it's more, sometimes when you go in, you go, oh shit, it's real.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, this is the race. This is the race that you've been training for.
Yeah.
You better go now.
Yeah. That's what I'm looking for. You know, that like, oh my goodness, here we go.
No,
you
this
know?
is it now.
Yeah.
This is not a practice. You know, this is not a drill.
It's the biggest show on earth, ladies and gentlemen. I think that's always, for me, the fascinating part is to share that sort of thing, because you kind of take it for granted. Like you say, you live in the water pretty much, and you get to experience that, and it's so quick. And it's over, and the next thing you're looking up and it's, wow, we did it.
Yeah.
Medals around our neck, you're heroes. But I suppose then comes a time when the swimming chapter ends in a way, and then you've got to chase this passion. And something I'm curious is your love for horses and how that all came about. Can you maybe just sort of, we'll talk about property and that side of your life, but I'm just fascinated to learn more why, firstly, you love horses and why you have so many.
You can never have enough. It's one of those things. So the love for horses. So 2008, I went down to Paarl. I went to Val de Vie. Just fell in love with the place. Became a shareholder there, and started to work there. And we obviously we've got 2 polo fields, 3 polo fields now, and
it's spectacular. If you haven't seen it, check out their website, and trust me, you're going to be blown away.
And this is one of my big regrets in life, is that I didn't get it into horses then, because I would be a lot better now if I did it then. But so I was working around polo and like around equestrian, but I always thought horse people are a little bit weird, and it actually happened during COVID, during the lockdown where we couldn't go anywhere, and I would take my girlfriend at the time down to the stables, kind of at sunset, sneak down there.
It's romantic,
illegally under the cover of darkness, and we would get on the horses and just ride a little bit. And then I think the first night I laid in bed and I just laid there and I just felt that power of the horse. when you're in the ocean a lot, and that evening when you lay there and you kind of feel the waves, it was like that, and I thought, wow, like I'm looking forward to getting back on the horse. And I was terrible. I had,
Had you ridden before?
No, not at all.
Okay, so
maybe once or twice in my life.
Sure.
But so now I was 42, 41, 42. Next day I would go back, and I really like this.
Yeah.
Now I'm thinking about it all day at work. When I'm doing all the Zoom calls and stuff, I'm just actually thinking, when can I get back down to the horses? And that, and for me, the big thing was that I just decided I'm going to put my ego aside, because I think that was the thing that kept me from. I was afraid to look stupid.
Yeah.
Because I'm this Olympic athlete,
Absolutely.
right? And I have to
gold medalist. Oh, yeah.
And I just said, you know what? I want to feel what it's like to be a beginner at something and be absolutely terrible and have no shame about it. And it started to become addictive in the sense that at 41, 42 years old, I was improving at something. Because in swimming, I was just getting slower. In the gym, I was getting weaker. But I'm doing something where every time I get on the horse, I'm learning a new skill.
Yeah.
So the synapses were just firing.
Yeah.
You
got a purpose. You got drive. You got fire in the belly.
So then and then the next thing I knew, I've got 15 horses that I look after. So you need a lot of ponies. It's all about the ponies at the end of the day. It's like 70, 80% of polo is are the horses. So we've got lots of horses that we play on, and I'm a complete novice. And but it's really nice to do something that I get nervous for.
Okay.
Like the butterflies.
Yeah.
Similar to before a big game, get nervous, and it's not quite the Olympics, but it is a very nice kick to get.
So it's given you this new energy, I imagine, right? This new drive in your life. And I suppose as you reach your 40s, it's about what is my next purpose? What is my thing? And you look at your horses and you go like, this is where I'm meant to be. And you're having fun, right? And that's what's important at this stage of your life.
Absolutely. And what I enjoy about the horses as well, besides learning new skills and improving in something, is I'm essentially coaching the horses. They can't talk back like a swimmer. So I'm working on their programs. I'm planning the season out just like I would for swim coaching. So they do preseason. They started 2 days ago, so they're walking 2 hours a day, and I keep track of it. And obviously their food is a huge thing. So we play around with the food. So it's not quite Olympic athletes, but but I do get to do that and to structure a season and to work on their performance.
That's crazy. And I mean, you've learned this all in the time since COVID type thing, and just taking on this knowledge.
Again, I've been fortunate to be able to travel and to meet some of the best polo players and just legends, great horsemen.
Yeah.
Always ask people questions. You can never stop learning. So so for me, it's been nice to start that new chapter and not be so one-dimensional. I think that was something that I was very specific about, that I didn't just want to be a swimming guy for the rest of my life. I realized when I was at university that I had to get work experience, because if you only have a CV with a bunch of medals and records on it, yes, it's great, but you're not going to get a great job just because you're a good swimmer.
Yeah.
But if you can combine some skills in business with obvious hard work and work ethic and goal setting and all those things, that becomes powerful.
Yeah.
So I've been very determined to be as multidimensional as I can be, and for young athletes, that's what I always advise: is don't ask for a sponsorship, ask for an internship. you can still get paid like a sponsor.
Yeah.
But rather ask if you can get involved in the business, even if you just go to the office, twice a week. Athletes always say, they don't have time. They've got lots of time. You know, if a guy like Yanni du Plessis can become a doctor while playing rugby, then you can go to class once or twice a week, or you can work on a project at a business. And for athletes, that's very powerful. If you have a little bit of a work experience and you've got a great athletic CV, you're going to go far in life.
Is that why you're such a big advocate for the US college opportunity? Like, if a young athlete, regardless of the sport, gets an opportunity to go to college in the US, you are banging that drum.
Yeah, I think it just the more well-rounded you are as a person, the better you're going to manage your own career as well. If all you can do is wake up in the morning and go to the pool and swim up and down, you can't make decisions for yourself. You can't discern if somebody has your best interest at heart. You can't discern if your agent is giving you a good deal. Yeah. But if you just have a little bit of knowledge in those things and you ask the right questions, then you can say, listen, I actually want to take my career in this way. And you see absolute disasters of athletic careers, people that do very well very early on and they end up with nothing.
Yeah.
So if I feel like if they were just a little bit more well-rounded and people see going to university or working part-time as that it detracts from your training, and I think it's the opposite. I think when you get on the block and you know that, and it's not that you're preparing to fail, but just to know that there's more to life than this race is a privilege, and I think Tatjana is great with that.
Yeah,
she goes. There's no fear of failure. She knows the sun's going to come up. She's very vocal about her faith, and that just gives her the confidence to go out there and to give it her best shot. So the more well-rounded people can be, I believe, the better athletes they will be as well.
You made a very interesting point early on when we started why you chose Arizona, and we've been fortunate enough to do a lot of interviews over the years with various Olympians. And recently I interviewed a wrestler, Steyn de Lange, who's a potential medal contender. He's 22 years old. He was courted by almost every single college in the US. I mean, Stanford, UCLA, you name it. And he chose Ryder because he felt that he didn't want to be in an Ivy League school where he was competing in the classroom and on the wrestling mat. And he said by taking the pressure off in the academic, and he's doing actuarial science. I mean, this is a smart guy. He's taking that pressure off himself and putting all the pressure when he wrestles.
Yeah.
And I was just thinking like, oh my goodness, how do you even choose a college, right? And he is happy. He's from Polokwane. It's the similar Bloemfontein sort of. Bloemfontein's maybe a little bit better, all due respect to Polokwane. But the point I'm trying to make is like, it's got to feel right, and once you get that groove, it does shape you into the human you are.
Yeah. But again, if you don't have that skills from an early age to make those decisions, or if you don't have the figures in your life that will really do what's in your best interest, not in their best interest, or but also look at it in a long, like a long view of it, not just what can you get paid or what's this guy offering you, or and there are so many options, and it doesn't have to be America. There's universities in the UK, Australia, but your sporting career is so short. It's only really golf, and if you're exceptional at tennis, and maybe the IPL guys that can retire off that.
Yeah,
everybody
their kids
else
don't have to work, and their kids. I got you.
But everybody else will have to work one day, So it's best to prepare for that early.
Ryk, I've got to ask you. I mean, we look at the next generation coming through in South African swimmers: Peter Kutsia, Matt Sates. These young guys are 20, 21. What do you make of sort of their journey so far? Because there's talent. I suppose it looks like Peter's fine. He didn't maybe medal, and maybe our expectations because of guys like you and Tatiana are that every time a South African steps on the block, we're like, medal, has to medal.
Yeah.
It adds a lot of pressure to these young swimmers. But at the end of the day, potentially they're looking at Los Angeles going, that's more realistic.
Yeah. No, I think a guy like Peter, for sure, he'll be 24 in Los Angeles. He kept on improving. Every time he swam, he chipped 1/10 of a second off his PB, and he broke a SO record in the 200, even though he got 7th. I've been in that position. It's very disappointing that you don't get a medal, but then on the other hand, it's the fastest than he's ever been. So you really can't be disappointed if other guys just swim faster than you. So I would like to see Peter get some more international exposure in a training sense. I think he's racing quite a lot overseas, but it's so clear that his turns and his underwaters is where he's a little bit more weak, and you can pretty much only improve that if you surround yourself with people that are better than you.
Sure.
Because you just learn from watching, and why is this guy beating me on the last turn? What's he doing that I'm not doing? And then you learn. So I hope that he can go spend a little bit of time overseas for training camps and things like that. And then Matt Sates is very disappointing. I mean, there's no other way to describe it. He was on top of the world in high school. Then he decided to go to the University of Georgia, and he only lasted there for 3 or 4 months.
Yeah.
He swam very fast there, made a huge impact, and then decided to come back. And since then, it's just been downhill.
Yeah.
But really downhill.
Yeah.
This morning in the 100 fly, he went to 54. I mean, there are women that almost swim that far. So it's not like just a little bit off. There's something really wrong. I don't know if it's his health. I don't think it's an injury. But and the worst thing would be that it's mental, that he's kind of in this hole. He's lost his confidence.
Yeah.
Because that's difficult to get out. It's not impossible.
Yeah.
But it's going to take a while to get out. So hopefully, there's not a lot of Olympic gold medalists just walking around in South Africa. So we have to nurture the few that there are. We can't say, okay, let's forget about Matt.
Yeah, we have to do something.
Figure out all resources that we have to our disposal. Let's figure out how we can get this kid back. Because there's not a lot out there.
Absolutely. We've got a few more minutes here. Ryk, I've got to look at some of the rock stars that at the Olympics that we've seen. I mean, Leon Marchand has just been insane.
So Matt Sates beat Leon Marchand like 2 years ago.
No, exactly. That's the crazy thing, right?
Yeah. So I mean, we know that he's got all the goods.
Yeah.
There's no, but then look at what Leon Marchand's been doing and the decisions he's been making versus Matt's.
Yeah, the Bauman factor.
Yeah.
But and look at that. It's a whole package, as you say. There's a lot that needs to go into it. But it, for me, feels like swimming, kind of, we tend to sort of forget about it. World champs and then Olympics, and then it's like that. But when you see superstars like this in the making, it just bodes well for the sport. And I mean, it probably makes you immensely proud as someone who gave thousands of hours and kilometers to the sport.
Yeah, no, it is nice to see. There were a few opportunities, I think, where they try to do like a professional sports, swimming league. It didn't. I think it only lasted 2 years.
Yeah.
But that is the difficult thing for swimming is how do we stay relevant in between Olympics?
Yeah.
That it's not just once every 4 years. But people like Leon Marchand will definitely help. I think a guy like Caleb Dressel, but then you've got, the pressure for these athletes. They I don't want to say they fold under the pressure, but they
feel
really,
it.
they feel it, and it affects their performances where they quit for a year and they say, listen, I'm just going to go chill on an island and just decompress because that training and it's you're training for years to improve 2 centimeters.
Yeah.
So you're cutting it so fine and you're so obsessive about it that you lose perspective. So it's difficult to keep it going. And that's why it's so difficult to defend your Olympic title. That's why no South African has ever been able to do it. I really thought that Tatjana was going to do it. And she won it in the 100 and not in the 200.
But it flipped the script a little bit.
Yeah. So, but it's very difficult to live or to do your thing for 4 years with a big bullseye on your back.
Absolutely. Yeah. Ryk, just lastly, and thank you so much for coming in, man. It's great to have you here. What is your advice to not even our next generation, but maybe the generation that's now getting into swimming, looks at Tatjana, looks at, finds you on YouTube and what you guys have done. What is your advice? Because there's a lot of sacrifice that has to go into it. And you've got to want it really bad.
So there's obviously a few things. I think you must want it for the right reasons, and I think your why must be absolutely steadfast, because you can't do it for your parents, you can't do it for any materialistic reasons. In your heart, that must be your goal, and you must be dead set on that. Then I think that there's really, I want to say there's no excuses. It doesn't, just because you're in South Africa and we don't have great pools or whatever. Yeah. There's always a way, and if you work hard enough and that why is strong enough, then nothing will get in your way.
Yeah.
Not even if you're short, or maybe you don't have the physical, ideally built for the sport. You can find a way, and we see it all the time where athletes that buck the trend, but they just worked at it, and that Tori Husk girl from the US, the determination. She walks out there, she looks mean, and she just goes, and she's failed so many times, and here on the biggest stage, there she goes, and she's Olympic champion. So your why, work hard. Try to be around people that are positive and that will add something to your experience. The people around me that help me ask questions. I mean, you said YouTube. Everything is on YouTube.
Yeah.
I mean, I wish I was a young swimmer now, because all Michael Phelps' training sessions, his techniques. I mean, back when I swam, we would get an old videotape, smuggled in somewhere that's 2 years old, and I would watch that thing until it would look like it was snowing on it, and I could memorize the commentators, every word of those radio, because that was the only swimming that we could get, and we'd get these old Swimming World magazines that would be a year old, and just go through the rankings. But it's all now, on YouTube, and there are so many stories. There's that Greek basketball player that taught himself how to play basketball in an internet cafe in Nigeria. And he became the MVP of the NBA. There was a javelin thrower from Kenya that also, in the internet cafe, taught himself how to throw the javelin. He became the world champion. So it's all there for you. There's really no excuses these days. And if you want something bad enough, you can get there. But it's not easy, and you're going to fail a lot more than what you succeed. And that's why I say that why, because you got to get it back up, and you got to go, and you got to go, but nothing is impossible. Even if you're short, that's not an excuse. Dream big, work hard. And finally, just stay humble, because it can all be taken away from you in an instant. Injury, illness, just bad luck, and then I think it's good to stay humble.
Yeah. Ryk, I can't thank you enough for coming in, making time,
Sis.
man, and keep inspiring, keep doing some good things. So I imagine we look for you at the polo fields,
That's right. That's right. If you're ever in the Cape, come and watch us play polo.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for your time, Ryk. I really appreciate that. And keep up the stellar work as an analyst and all the other things you're involved in. So thank you very much for that. Thanks so much for watching the CS Du Plessis Show. Remember to like and subscribe on YouTube. We're also on iTunes and Spotify. And remember to check out betway.co.za for more information, as well as our other partners, Monster Energy and New Era Caps. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you again next time.